Okay folks, sorry about that. I was about halfway through a live video and my feed went out. So I'm going to very briefly re-establish what I was talking about, and that is this, that yesterday Connie asked me what my secrets were for using exclusivity and scarcity and some of these what I'll call influence triggers, persuaders, at the beginning of my studio sign-up process. And the two that I use primarily are authority and the idea of exclusivity or scarcity. And so again, since the previous live feed got cut off, I'm just going to very briefly re-establish this idea. The idea is that Robert Cialdini wrote, over 30 years ago, he wrote a book on these things that are hardwired as humans. As humans, we have these influence triggers hardwired into us, that it goes past rational thought, that if someone uses these persuasion weapons on us, that we kind of don't realize that it's happening. And you can use this ethically, you can use this unethically. I prefer to use these things ethically. And the two that I use primarily at the beginning of my studio sign-up process is authority and scarcity. So authority. I don't paint myself as this awesome piano teacher. I don't paint myself as this person who knows more than the other person. The way that I like to exude authority is when I'm speaking with a parent on the phone, when I'm speaking with a parent live and in person, maybe in the context of a trial lesson. I want to show them, by the way that I'm talking to them, I want to show them that I actually understand what they want so much that they don't even have to ask questions. There's this great, and I think I've even said this on a live video within the last week, that there's this great quote that if you can answer questions that your customers don't even realize they have, they automatically assume that you have the answer to the question. Or if you can answer a question that a customer has or a prospective customer has, and you can answer this without them even asking it, they'll assume you have the answer, and they'll end up trusting you as a result. So that's how I like to use authority. So when people come in, they often have, obvious logistical questions like how much does it cost, when can we meet, all those sorts of things. But deep down, parents, when they're coming to your studio, they have the question, how do I know that this isn't going to turn into a giant war with my child? How do I know that this is the studio for me? And the way that I answer that with authority is by telling them stories. Telling them stories of other students in the studio, telling them stories of questions of parents who had questions similar to theirs. And by telling that story, it gives them permission to feel comfortable with making the decision to sign up. So that's kind of the first thing. And in reality too, I'm trying to lead the process. I've had the chance as a coach to listen to kind of look in on the process that other studios use in their introductory lessons, their trial sessions, whatever you want to call them. I've had a chance to see recordings of these or actually be there live and observe them. And oftentimes there are these giant awkward pauses or teachers keep saying, so do you have any more questions or things like that? And in reality, what they're doing is they're giving up their authority. They're actually leaving it up to the parents to lead the process. Well, your customers don't want that. They don't want to be leading the process. They want you to tell them what to do next. And so another way that I use authority to get people to sign up, to grow my studio, to grow revenue, is to take the lead in the process. And that honestly means that I have a definite plan. And I really do. I have scripted out every single point of the sign-up process in my studio, and therefore have taken the authority. That's the first one. The second influence trigger, or the second way that I use it, and this is what Connie specifically asked about, and which, by the way, I'm going to take a time out here and say, if you have questions about anything I'm saying, leave that in the comments below. If you have a question if you have a question that you'd like me to answer in a future video, please leave that in the comments below, or just say hi and introduce yourself. I can see that people are watching. I can't always see who's watching, so you could just maybe say, hey, what your studio name is, where you're signing in from. Would love to see that. That'd be great. I can see it right here on my screen as I'm talking to you right now. Anyway, the second way that I use these persuasion tools in my sign-up process is using the concept that Robert Cialdini calls scarcity. And basically, scarcity is the idea that people subconsciously are afraid of losing something, even if they didn't want it before. If you tell them, hey, this thing that's really desirable, I'm going to take it away, people will often make decisions simply to avoid losing something that maybe they didn't even want in the first place. So that's the scarcity trigger. So here's the question that studio owners have to contend with. This is a big one. How do you convey scarcity or exclusivity in your studio when in reality you would take anyone in your studio? Now, there are a few studios in the United States or music schools in the United States where they really do have exclusive enrollment. They demand a certain amount of practice out of their students. There are teachers who are nationally famous, like Suzanne Guy, who people come from all over the state to take lessons from her. The truth of the matter is that most studio owners aren't trying to create that kind of studio. It's just true. So how do you use the scarcity influence tool? How do you use the scarcity persuasion tool in your favor when in reality you would take people, more or less anyone? So here it is. You actually have to flip it around. And here's what I mean by that. You have to show that what you have is unique using the power of story. Now here's what I mean. More or less, most studio owners look the same to parents. So from the outside looking in, we all look the same to parents. And then they realize that some teachers might be better than others and they want to find them, but they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to identify who is who. Again, that's where they're looking for our leadership. So they're looking for us to signal to them that what we have is better or different or is going to give their child a better outcome or their child's going to like the lessons better. So the way that we can use scarcity is actually to tell stories that will signal to parents that what we have is unlike any other studio around us. And ways that I do that is, and without giving away too much of the secret sauce here, I will tell you that I have what I'll call a script that I use in every single trial lesson that I do that explains in a really interesting and humorous and funny way how I've eliminated the practice problem in my studio. And if another teacher heard it, it might sound mildly offensive. And what I mean by that is I actually make some claims that most teachers don't know how to solve the practice problem, that they don't know how to get kids in their studios to practice, and that I've actually solved that problem. Now, by this time, you might be sitting on the edge of your seat and you're like, okay, I want to hear that thing. What is that? How do you do it? Well, that's the point. Parents get this sense, like I'm leading them, I'm using authority, but at the same time they're like, oh wow, so this guy has something that I want. I want my child to practice, I want my child to love music. He's figured out how to do it, and so I've sucked them in. And subconsciously, in the back of their head, they know, this studio feels different than other studios. And the truth is even from the very beginning of the process, even when I first reach out to them and have a phone call or send an email, when they are on my website, I'm beginning to hint at this, that I've solved the practice problem in my studio, that I've solved the problem of music feels like homework in most studios, but in my studio it doesn't. It feels like fun, it feels like a game. And parents have the sense, wow, this place is different, I want to go there, and that's the whole point. I'm trying to excite that desire, I'm trying to awaken the desire inside of parents, and subconsciously show them that what I'm doing here is a lot different than what they're used to. There's some other practical ways, and I'm nearing completion here. There's some other practical ways that I have done this. When I'm closer to being full, I can dangle in front of parents the fact that I only have a few slots left. That's a way to promote exclusivity. Obviously, you can't lie about that. That's unethical. But when I am close to being full up, like I am now, I only have a few slots in January, and I have 11 families contending for 4 or 5 slots. And so I will freely admit that to parents. I'll say, hey, I've got 5 slots for January. I've got 11 families that want them. Do you want it? And even in that sense, right now, I'm actually making them pay a registration fee in advance, because what I don't want to have happen is get to January and some of those people who said yes in early November or mid-November, I don't want those people to all of a sudden be like, oh, we've changed our mind. So I'm making them lock in their slot by paying in advance for that first month. And again, that feels scarce. Not every studio does that. signaling to parents that what I'm doing is different than other studios, and I tell them. That's another huge part of it, just customer education. So that's that. So I think that's what I have for today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, I am on the road. We are just getting away for the weekend. We're at the awesome Palmer House Hotel in downtown Chicago. It's pretty sweet in here. They've got the place all decorated up for Christmas. My family's already gone to the pool. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going up to the pool. But as I mentioned and have been mentioning all month, I am doing a live broadcast every day this month. Every weekday this month. I'll be doing this again tomorrow. Answering questions that you all have. I'm already getting a little bit of a backlog of questions, but if you leave a question below or introduce yourself or share this video, would love for you to do that. Like this video, that helps me a lot. I love your comments. But if you leave a comment below asking a question, if it's a really interesting question, I might bump yours to the top of the list. I would really love to see that. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'm doing this all month. Happy holidays, and I'll see you tomorrow.